Hello darling, I was recently asked on Formspring not to make up any excuses for the delay for this video, so I'm not going to make up any, and let's just get started. The first book I want to talk to you about is The Catcher in the Rye, from Salinger obviously. Came out in 1951, and well, since then it's become very popular with adolescent readers because it wanders through themes of teenage confusion, rebellion, sexuality. 250,000 copies of this are sold every year. The young main character, Holden Caulfield, actually qualifies himself as a catcher in the rye because he is actually misquoting a poem from Robert Burns, Coming Through the Rye. He proclaims himself a guardian of children who play in a huge rye field on the edge of a cliff, and so he is supposedly the one who has to catch them and those who wander close to the brink. In this book, much is left up to the reader to decide which interpretation may or may not be correct regarding various situations. And it might be an exercise of stream of consciousness. Some say it doesn't imply maturation, others claim its ending may help through hard, alienating phases of teen years. Whichever way, I think this is a key book for everyone. Anyone and everyone, really, should read this. We have some sort of a Nick Hornby section in this video. The first one is Not a Star. It's the story of a mother and her son, and it's spiced up by the fact that she finds out he's a porn star. It's too bad the nosy neighbors actually knew that before she did. In this book, many difficult questions arise, and some answers moms should never know. This one is absolutely lovely. It's, again, Nick Hornby, Shakespeare Wrote for Money, came out in 2008. I suggest you read the affectionate introduction Sarah Vowell wrote on this. You can find it on McSweeney's Internet Tendency. I'll put the link in the sidebar. It's a collection of Hornby's Stuff I've Been Reading. That was a column he used to have in The Believer. This one ranges from August 2006 to September 2008, and it's the third of its kind. Before this one, you had The Polysyllabic Spree, 2003-2004, and Housekeeping versus the Dirt for 2006. It's very nice to see this sort of scheme. He writes lists of books he has bought and books he has read, and you can see that they not often match. Welsh, obviously the author of Trainspotting, this is Reheated Cabbage. Fans will notice that his customary strengths are all in place with this one. The stories are funny in the black, almost cartoonish way. I think what's really amazing about him is that for all his passionate depiction of horrible events, his work is never heartless or immoral. Here, much of that morality is inverted, violence is prized, and grief is seen as a weakness. But still, for these episodes to be funny or shocking, there has to be an underlying sense of morality in the first place, right? You have to keep in mind, though, that I Am Miami, which is the last one, is the only new story. It's the last and longest. And be warned because it's touching and sentimental, which is something you wouldn't expect. And it may hint a whole new direction for Welsh, although no one would really bet on it. This is Jess Walter, The Financial Lives of the Poets. He is also the author of The Zero, which is about 9/11, and it's beautiful. Now, this gives a nice closure to the Nick Hornby section, because there's a comment from him here. Well, anyway, 2 years before the novel's beginning, Matt, the main character, made a bad call. And then another one, and a few other ill-advised maneuvers. As a result, the Pryor family has ended up badly in debt. It captures fiscal panic and frustration, lacing elements of tragedy with a sitcom sensibility, and it actually works. I really like this one. It's an easy reading, but it deals with very serious arguments and themes, so it's a nice mashup. David Sedaris. This is Squirrel Seeks Chipmunk. It's a brilliant book about not very nice things and cute fuzzy animals. It's definitely not for children. It may make you despise humanity and yourself at times. Definitely not my favorite from him. I don't really know how to read the name of this author. Arto Pasilina. Here's from Finland. This is The Best Village in the World. It's full of whimsical characters and a bizarre team of strange people, all round up in unusual experiences. It's a preposterous community that tries to deal with the past and future and vanity, ideologists, consumerism. Sometimes you can see through their eyes that maybe our society right now, it's just Machado about nothing. James Graham Ballard, this is Cocaine Nights. Charles Prentice ventures to Estrella de Mar to rescue his jailed brother. His name is Frank. And he arrives there only to find that he has not only confessed to everything, but also has no interest in being saved altogether. It's a story of manipulation, of looking for the truth, of dark secrets and losing control. This, or really any book from Ballard, is really, really important. Only so that you can get what Balladian is. Because it's a literary distinctiveness of his work. It's about dystopian modernity, bleak man-made landscapes, psychology effects of technological and social or environmental development. It's all about, again, dystopia. Dystopia is about imaginary places where everything is as bad as it can be. It's sort of an evolution of the Greenland from Graham Greene. Talking about new classics, this is John Fante, Ask the Dust. It came out in 1939. Well, John Fante used to have an alter ego, just like Charles Bukowski. The name of his is Bandini. And the use he does of Bandini can be compared to Charles Bukowski, Eric Chinaski. Bukowski himself, by the way, cites this book as a significant influence on his own writing. Again, it's modern dystopia during Great Depression era. This is the third of 4 books, which are normally called the Bandini Quartet. The first one was Wait Until Spring Bandini of 1938, The Road to Los Angeles, which was technically the first novel, but it wasn't published until 1985, Ask the Dust, and then Dreams from Bunker Hill. It's set in California, again, Great Depression. I think it's the best one out of the whole series, the 4 books with Bandini, the whole bunch. I have to say this, I bought it because of the cover and the editing inside. It's Douglas Coupland, Microserves. It's an epistolary novel, first appeared in a short story form on Wired, which is quite appropriate really, because it's set in the early 90s and it depicts technology industry prior to Windows 95. It's a diary with entries kept on a power book by the narrator, whose name is Daniel. The formatting and emoticons, it's really similar to what now we know as a blog. It's a very beautiful depiction of geek culture, both at Microsoft and in Redmond, Washington, and all the way to Silicon Valley. Many of these books I wouldn't suggest to younger readers. And here's another one. This is Bret Easton Ellis, the author of American Psycho. This is Imperial Bedrooms, the new one. It came out in 2010. Now, this is the sequel to Less Than Zero. Less Than Zero was called as such because of Elvis Costello's song, and this is because of Elvis Costello's album, so it just makes sense. Now, Less Than Zero came out in 1985. It was his literary debut. 25 years later, what was self-destructive and disillusioned youth has now turned into middle age, and Clay is older, he's back in LA, it's Christmas again, there's sex, there's extreme violence, there's hedonism, minimalist style, and almost it all manages to be emotionless, just as it normally is with him. Now, it's so cynical and amoral and decadent. I mean, if you like him, you're obviously gonna like this one. Obviously, I wouldn't suggest this as a first reading with Bret Easton Ellis. If you want to start with the, saga, go with Less Than Zero first and then land here. This is Dave Eggers' 2006, What is the What? It's based on the real and shocking life story of Valentino Akak Deng. It's a Sudanese refugee and a member of the Lost Boys of Sudan program. It's this book is it's hard to read. Because there's so much truth in it. It's so authentic. Nonetheless, it manages to be compelling and elegant and fascinating. Somehow, I think Dave Eggers realized everyone should know about these things and does his best to make it slightly more tolerable with the very pleasant way he writes. Still, keep in mind the subject of the matter is quite harsh. Next is Willie Vlortin, Lean on Pete. Now this is painful, once again. It's all told from the perspective of 15-year-old Charlie Thompson. It's the story of him being left to fend for himself by his wayward single father. He finds himself walking with a surly, washed-up horse trainer, and he befriends an aging quarter horse named Lean on Pete. Before long, Charlie and Pete find themselves alone in an unforgiving scenery scattered with a vivid cast of characters in desperate situations and glimmers of hope. It's a long way to hope, and I don't normally enjoy books that see animals and children in difficult and painful situations. Still, the disclaimer is nice because the author claims he actually knows Lean on Pete and his owner, and neither of whom, he says, bears any resemblance to the characters in this story. Lean on Pete, you'll be glad to know, has had a successful thoroughbred racing career, and David Duke, the owner, is a respected Oregon horseman who treats his horses honorably and with kindness, and that's a relief. Let's say I enjoyed the fact that I read that line first and then I read the whole book. It's funny because in this selection of books, there's nothing really completely and thoroughly light-hearted. Still, I hope you enjoyed it somehow. Maybe I gave you some suggestions for new readings. Let me know if you intend to read anything I've spoken to you about, if you already have, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye!